Now I thought today, got Christmas approaching, let's make some Christmas muffins. Now these muffins are going to be with cinnamon and apple, so you're going to be full of warm, spicy cinnamon, delicious piece of apple, and what we're also going to do is add a little topping on just to top it up, and oh, it's going to be wonderful. So if you want some really scrummy muffins for Christmas or any time of the year, give these a go. Now just to go through the ingredients, now what we're going to be doing is to make up a dry mix and then we're going to make a wet mix. Now to go through the ingredients for the dry mix, this is what you're going to need. 250 grams of self-raising flour. Now with the flour you need to sieve it, so get your sieve, lift it up above the bowl, try and get a little bit of air into the flour. So 250 grams self-raising flour. Sugar, I've got 125 grams of caster sugar and then 50 grams of muscovado dark sugar, so like a brown sugar, 50 grams. 2 teaspoons, that's a small spoon for your cups of tea, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So that's all the ingredients for making up the dry mix. Now what I'm going to do next is to go through the ingredients for making the wet mix. Now for making up the wet mix, I've got 175 millilitres of full fat milk, 125 grams of butter. Now with the butter, pop that in the microwave 15-20 seconds just to get it, sort of melted if you can. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now the one I've got, it's got like little bits of seed in there, so it gives an extra flavour, but just use whatever you've got, 1 teaspoon. 2 large eggs. Now crack the eggs into a bowl, make sure there's no shell, and we just add it all in and mix it up, and that is your wet mix all done. So we've done the dry mix, done the wet mix, which are going to go together and combine and make the batter. Now we also need to add the fruit in there, and obviously I'm going to be adding apples. Now for the apples, I'm going to be using 2 apples. Now whichever apple you're using, eating apples, what you want to do is peel them, chop the core out and chop them up into smallish pieces, add them in the muffin mix. Now the apples I'm using are Granny Smith's. I find those really nice eating apples work really well in these muffins, but if you've got a couple of different apples, ones you prefer, use those. Now as an alternative to apples, you could instead maybe use bananas, you've got blueberries, or you could use chocolate, or mix and match, whatever you want. So I'm using a couple of apples. Now the other thing we've got to go through is the topping. So I'm going to go through the ingredients for making up the topping that's going to go on top of the muffins. Now for making up the topping, I've got 50 grams of white sugar. I've got caster sugar, but you could use granulated sugar, so 50 grams. 25 grams of plain flour, 10 grams of cold butter, and then half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. So that all just gets mixed up in the bowl, and that's your topping to go over the muffins just before they go in the oven. So we've now gone through the ingredients. I've just given you all the ingredients on the screen there, so a nice little quick checklist. Now what I'm going to do next of all is get myself a bowl, and we're going to start by mixing up the dry mix, and then we're going to get another bowl and start mixing up the wet mix, and then just bring them all together. Now for making up the dry mix, got yourself a bowl and also a sieve. Now what you want to do is just pop the flour in there and just kind of shake it or whatever. What you try and do is get a little bit of air into the flour. Whoop. Don't do this on the edge of the table, because otherwise you make a mess. I'll just tap that last little bit in there. Also I might as well put the baking powder through as well. Next of all, pop the sugar in there. The salt. And then finally, we've got that ground cinnamon. Now what we can do is just get like a wooden spoon and Just want to sort of mix that together until it's all incorporated. Won't take long. Just mix it around. That's it. Got it all mixed up. Just trying to, you know, squash down little bits of the sugar, the brown sugar that's sort of stuck together, and just move it around. So that didn't take long. That's the dry mix all done. Now for making up the wet mix, so all the sort of runny, you know, liquid ingredients, I'm going to start with the butter. Now I'm just going to pop that in the microwave, probably about 15-20 seconds until it's just melted, and then we're going to add that in the bowl. So I've got my butter. In the end, I probably did mine for 25 seconds, but you know, until it's just about liquid really. That's it, get the last bit out. Now next I'm going to put in the milk. Remember, full fat. And then we've got a couple of eggs to go in. Try and make sure there's no shell. And with the eggs, large eggs, just give that a whack. That's it, that's one. Do the same with the other one. And finally, got that vanilla extract. So now we've got all the ingredients in there for the wet mix. Now what you want to do is just grab this, use a whisk if you've got one. There you go. I've done mine for a minute or so. That'll do the job. Now let's move that aside, because what I'm going to do is bring back the dry mixture, and then we're going to mix the wet mix in together, and it will make the really nice muffin mixture. So let's get the bowl with the dry mix. There you go. Now for mixing it up, that's it. Gonna get me wet mix. And I'm just going to start pouring a bit in. Start with a wooden spoon, it's just easier. Just keep pouring that in. Like that, just going to work that out. I saw some of those vanilla seeds in there, so let's get those out. Now, what you want to do is just kind of bring it all together. And once you've got it a little bit liquid, then you can probably change over to the whisk again. So keep working it, mixing it around. Now I've been whisking that, probably coming up for 3 minutes. A little bit tiring on the arm, so if you've got an electric one, definitely use that. But that is a nice muffin mixture. Look at that. Now what I'm going to do is move that aside, and I'm going to get my apples. I'm going to peel them, cut the core out, and we're going to chop them into smallish pieces and add them into the muffin mixture. So let's move that aside. Now, got my apples there. Obviously, as I said, you can vary the fruit you want, but I'm using apples, and plenty of them. Apple and cinnamon go really good together. Now, I've just got this at hand, so I'm just going to use this a little bit. Mix it around. And what I'd say is just mix this until you've got all the apple incorporated with the muffin mixture. And that is ready to go in the oven. Oh, lovely. Look at that, lovely. I'm just going to move that back. Now for making these muffins, I've got my little muffin cases there. Now muffin cases are bigger than like cupcakes one, and I've got this sort of tin which I think is for muffins and a little tray underneath. Now what I'm going to do is just pop those in there. Now I only had 10 in the end, but I've got these ones look a little bit Christmassy, so I thought they'd use those cupcakes. So I've got those there. Now what I'm going to do is get that mixture, the muffin mixture, and we've obviously added the apple, and I'm just going to pour that in each one of them, roughly to about 2/3 of it filled. Now I've used up that mixture and it worked out about right. I got the 12 done. Now obviously a couple of these were just for cupcakes, but roughly about 2/3 full. Now what I'm going to do is move that tray aside, and we're going to make up the topping that we're just going to put a little bit on each of those. So move that aside, get a bowl, let's make up the topping. Now for the topping, I'm just going to put all the ingredients in. So I've got the sugar, the plain flour, ground cinnamon, and we've got the butter. So just grab it, try and squash it together. There you go. I've just been mixing it up for a minute, probably a couple of minutes, just squashing it, getting it all combined until it makes these, you know, like breadcrumb sort of mixture. So there's our topping to go on the muffins. Now I'm going to bring the muffins back, add the topping, get the oven preheated, get them cooking. Now with the muffins, I'm just going to pop those in the oven. That's it, look at that, lovely. Now I've got my oven preheated, and say temperature wise 200 degrees Celsius, which is 400 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 6. Now cook time, I'll say roughly 18 to 22 minutes depending on your oven. When they look like they're cooked, you know, roughly 20 minutes, you can always just gently pull them out, stick a knife or a skewer in, and if it comes out clean, they're done. Otherwise, cook for a couple of minutes longer. So leave those cooking and we'll have a look at them 18-20 minutes. Now I've had my muffins cooking. In the end, I actually left mine for 24 minutes. I left them a little bit longer because I wanted to get a nice golden brown colour on top, you know, just underneath that topping. Now let's just quickly test one of those. Put a clean knife in. If that comes out clean, pretty much like that, I reckon that's done. So 24 minutes, but keep an eye on yours. But I think it's nice if you can get a nice golden brown colour on top of the actual muffins. Oh, look at that. Let's put those on the table. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer those onto a wire rack and probably leave them 5 or 10 minutes. Oh, look at that. Oh, that looks delish. Absolutely delish. In each of those muffins, you got Christmas. The cinnamon, the apple. I can't wait. Leave those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I'm going to try one. Now I've left me muffins 5 or so minutes. I couldn't wait any longer. Look at that. Looks absolutely delicious. Now I am just going to try one of these muffins. So let's have a little bit of a bite out of this. See how it is. That muffin is absolutely scrummy. You got the apple, you got the cinnamon, that topping. It's nice and dry, but the topping is just wonderful. You know, it goes together so well. That is Christmas in a muffin. Thanks for watching my videos. Go and make these because they're nice and simple, and it's cinnamon and apple, always a good one for Christmas. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you again soon from the original Naked Chef.